It was past midnight when the storm broke over Haven Ridge, rain hammering the clinic roof like 1,000 desperate fists. Thunder cracked the sky just as the front door flew open, hinges groaning under the weight of panic. A man stumbled inside, soaked to the bone, his boots tracking mud across the sterile tile. In his arms, cradled like something sacred, was a massive German shepherd, limp, trembling, her breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. Her belly was taut and swollen, her fur matted with sweat and rain, her eyes half-lidded with exhaustion and pain. "She's been pushing for 14 hours, the man choked out, voice breaking. "Nothing's coming. I think she's dying." Dr. Lena Carter appeared in the hallway, stethoscope swinging, her sharp eyes locking onto the dog the moment she stepped into the light. One look told her everything. This wasn't just labor, it was a race against time. As the heart monitor began its urgent beeping and the nurses scrambled into motion, Lena's mind screamed one thought: we're already too late. But what she did next, calm, precise, and utterly fearless, would defy every textbook rule and save more lives than anyone in that room could have imagined. If your heart's racing right now, you're not alone. Hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story like this. And hey, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. Let's see how far hope travels tonight. Thomas Reed had known something was wrong when Brunhild stopped pacing and just lay in the barn corner, whimpering softly into the straw. He'd stayed with her all evening, rubbing her belly, whispering encouragement, praying the contractions would come. But hours passed with no progress, only growing distress. By midnight, her breathing turned shallow, her gums pale. That's when he wrapped her in a blanket, lifted her trembling body into his arms, and drove through the storm with no headlights, afraid to waste a second. Now, in the harsh fluorescent glow of Haven Ridge Animal Clinic, Lena's gloved hands moved over Brunhild's abdomen with practiced urgency. 2 faint heartbeats, she murmured after the ultrasound flickered to life, revealing 6 tiny forms curled in the womb. For our still, Thomas's face crumpled. "She's not just a dog," he whispered, tears mixing with rain on his cheeks. "She raised my kids after my wife passed. She's all I've got left." Lena didn't look up, but her voice softened like worn leather. "Then we fight like family." Nurses prepped 4 lines, oxygen, surgical trays. Every second a thread holding life together. The oxytocin drip did nothing. Brunhild's uterus had gone silent, exhausted beyond function. "We're going to surgery," Lena announced, her tone leaving no room for debate. Thomas watched through the glass partition as they wheeled Brunhild into the operating room, his hands pressed against the cool surface like he could will his strength into her. Inside, the air turned sharp with antiseptic and tension. Lena made the first incision with steady hands, but what she found beneath the surface stole her breath. A tear in the uterine wall, dark blood welling fast. "Pressure's dropping," a nurse warned. "Stabilize her now." Lena worked with laser focus, clamping, suturing, all while reaching for the first pup. It came out limp, silent, tiny body cold in her palm. She began compressions immediately, her voice low and urgent. "Come on, baby. Breathe for me." Seconds stretched like hours. Then, a twitch. A squeak so faint it might have been imagined. But it wasn't. The first miracle had arrived. The second pup followed, equally still. Thomas's muffled sob echoed from the hallway. Lena's throat tightened. She remembered Astra, her own German shepherd, lost years ago in a birth gone wrong. "Not again," she whispered fiercely, rubbing the second pup's chest until a weak cry pierced the sterile air. 3 more puppies were revived one by one, each rescue a battle against silence and time. But as Lena reached for the 6th and final pup, Brunhild's monitor flatlined. "No pulse," someone shouted. Lena froze for half a heartbeat, mother or pup. She made her choice instantly. Dropping the newborn onto a warm towel, she turned to Brunhild, pressing hard on her chest, injecting adrenaline, whispering desperate pleas. "Stay with me, girl. You've come too far." The room held its breath. Then beep. Faint, then stronger. Brunhild was back. Lena turned back to the last pup, so small it fit in her palm, unmoving. She rubbed its fur, breathed gently into its nose, willed life into its fragile frame. Nothing. She tried again, and again, Just as despair began to creep in, a sound, so soft it was almost lost beneath the hum of machines, a tiny whimper. The sixth pup lived. All six now squirmed under the heat lamp, their cries weaving a fragile symphony of survival. Brunhild stirred, her eyes fluttering open as if drawn by the sound of her babies. Outside, Thomas slid down the wall, sobbing into his hands, his entire body shaking with relief that a week later, golden morning light spilled across the clinic floor, warm and forgiving. Brunhild lay in a clean pen, her coat gleaming, her eyes bright and alert. Around her, 6 puppies tumbled in a clumsy heap, yipping and nipping at each other's ears. Dr. Lena Carter crouched beside them, smiling as the smallest one climbed into her lap and licked her chin. "You're a troublemaker, aren't you?" she murmured, scratching behind its ears. Just then, the nurse appeared in the doorway, holding a small box lined with a faded towel. "Someone left this on the porch this morning," she said softly. Lena lifted the edge of the fabric to reveal a 7th puppy, emaciated, trembling, ribs visible beneath patchy fur. "He won't make it without milk," Lena whispered, heart sinking. But before she could finish, Brunhild lifted her head. Her ears twitched at the orphan's faint whimper. Slowly, she rose and approached, nudging the box with her nose. Then, with infinite gentleness, she began licking the tiny stranger's face, her maternal hum filling the room. The nurse gasped. "She's adopting him." Lena wiped her eyes, voice thick with awe. "After everything she's been through, she still has room in her heart for one more." They placed the newcomer among the litter, and within minutes, he'd found a spot against Brunhild's belly, nursing alongside his new siblings. Lena stood on the clinic porch at dawn, the storm long gone, the air sweet with wet earth and possibility. Her scrubs were stained, her body ached with exhaustion, but her spirit felt lighter than it had in years. She thought of Astra, of all the lives she couldn't save, and then of Brunhild, who had fought through hell and still chose to love. Thomas appeared beside her, holding 2 steaming mugs. "You gave me back my tomorrow," he said quietly. Lena shook her head. "She did that herself. I just held her hand through the dark." He smiled, eyes glistening. "Then you reminded me that miracles still happen, even in places like this." As the sun climbed higher, painting the fields in gold, Lena knew the truth. We think miracles need grand stages. But the real ones happen in quiet rooms, in trembling hands that refuse to let go, in a single heartbeat that chooses to keep going when everything says to stop. If this story reminded you that hope is never truly lost, if it made you believe, even for a moment, in the power of compassion, then do me a favor, like this video, share it with someone who needs light today, and subscribe for more stories where ordinary people do extraordinary things. Because somewhere out there, another life is waiting for its miracle. And maybe, just maybe, it starts with someone like you caring enough to watch.